Good morning. Welcome to the Public Works Building. It's August 25th, 9 o'clock in the morning. We're here for our regular agenda council meeting. And if you would go ahead and stand up, go ahead and get an invitation followed by the pledge of allegiance by the dates.
Let us pray. Almighty God, maker of heaven and earth, whose wisdom orders all things in mercy and truth, we give you thanks for the beauty of your creation, for the precious gift of Mexico Beach. Grant these council members sound judgment, justice, and humble stewardship, and do them with your wisdom, that their deliberations may serve the common good and honor every person. Bless the city, O Lord, and all who labor for its welfare, and establish among us your bond of peace through the unity of the Spirit. And this I pray in your most holy name. Amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, Bates, thank you. Your words are powerful. Appreciate it.
Ms. Logan?
Here.
Mr. Cox?
Here.
Mr. Casati?
Here.
Ms. Hamilton?
Here.
Mayor Wolf?
Here. All right, first thing on the agenda is the task order. I guess come on up. Anchor.
Good morning. Elizabeth Moore with Anchor CEI. We have submitted a proposal for the design, engineering, and permitting for a temporary road to the new, or the proposed police, fire, and civic campus. My understanding is that this task order is also going to be covered under your FEMA funding and grants. And this task order will cover everything from the design of the roadway, evaluating the stormwater requirements, providing utilities underneath that roadway, ensuring that the utilities where they tie in will have the capacity for the proposed improvements, and any other necessary professional services related to engineering. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those.
Let's go ahead and open it to the public first. Is there any public comments? If not, we'll come to the table. And there is not, so we'll go ahead and close the public and open it to the table. I'll go ahead and get you started. I had a couple on the first one being Duke Energy doing the lighting in your task D, the final design drawing. Coordinated with Duke about the lighting. And then I go back to the back page where the following tasks are not included in the proposal. The landscaping, lighting are listed. So,
The lighting, we aren't going to do any lighting design, which is what that exclusion is for, but we will coordinate with Duke Energy, and normally they will come out and do their own lighting analysis and determine how many lights need to be out there and that kind of thing. But we'll coordinate so that the roadway will be lit, but it's just not, we're not going to provide the actual electrical designs.
okay, the word temporary is used quite a bit in this.
Yes.
I know we're putting down gravel at first, but you also mentioned raising 2 foot of road.
That's correct. Well, and that's going to be all part of the evaluation. We're just trying to make sure that whatever you put out there isn't thrown away, so that if you do actually have to raise the road, it is pretty low out there, and there's a lot of really low areas it looks like cars could get stuck, so we want to make sure it's high enough to get it out of the water table. But as part of this, we're also going to evaluate other options, but so it's not, we don't know for sure that the road's going to have to be raised 2 feet, but that's our estimate at this point. We just want to make sure that you have a solid road surface that emergency vehicles can get across until the time at which you can pave it. And then also, should you choose to pave this in the future, what we put there you won't have to take out and put back in later. Like, this is going to build it up and put a nice road base in, so that if you do come back and pave the whole thing, then it's going to be good for that.
Okay.
So will that temporary road hold up under construction traffic? I mean, aren't we talking about the temporary road for all the work to be done? Will that come up under all that?
That's why we're gonna raise it up, we're gonna put a good road base in and then a gravel drive. But my understanding is that the funding isn't there to actually pave it at this point. So we're gonna do our best to make sure that it's a high and dry roadway that, yes, the construction vehicles can. Now, that's not to say you won't have to maintain it. I mean, it's not a paved surface.
Right.
So there will be some maintenance, I'm sure, due to the construction. But we can also work with your disaster recovery group so that whenever they go to actually bid this, that they put in there that it is the contractor's responsibility to maintain the road. So if any damage is done to it, that it's put back, kind of thing. But you do, at the beginning, want to make sure that they can access it. So-
You'll get the two-foot base built up during the temporary work.
Right, yes.
Okay. And again, the road itself is FEMA funded and grant funded?
That is not my area on this, but my understanding is that it is.
That's our understanding at this point, yes.
But it's not.
It's not obligated.
It's not obligated, okay, gotcha.
All right, review on permitting and approvals. The same thing as the lighting. On the back page, you say that you're not gonna do any permitting with lighting, but in the front, you say you are.
We are doing permitting, that is included, environmental consulting or environmental permitting. We do have that in there, so that is let's see, no, actually, we took that out. We went back and forth on that a little bit. We are not anticipating that we're gonna have to impact any wetlands as a part of this design, so we left that out. If we do, if it turns out the DEP is going to require us to do some environmental permitting, then we will. Now, that's separate from stormwater permitting. But then at the bottom, the permitting and application fees, that's typically not included in our fee. That's typically separate.
Okay.
But you're right, we did end up, after talking to the environmental consultant, she said we should just go ahead and submit it because she doesn't think it's gonna be required. And then if it is, we would have to come back to you for that, but we're hoping that it's not.
Council?
So what are we getting from Duke in this task D? Just their drawings? You guys are just a pass-through for them?
Well, we will coordinate with them. What typically results from that coordination is then they evaluate how much lighting is gonna be used, how much energy is gonna be used with those lights and with the facility. And then they come back to you with a yearly cost to say, this is how much these lights will cost you per year. Sometimes they come back and say, it's not gonna cost you anything because of how much power you're gonna be using on the police and fire campus itself. And then sometimes it comes back with a nominal fee. So this will get you to the point that we bring you a proposal and say, this is what Duke is proposing. We will coordinate that and bring that and then include whatever we have to in our design, but then we'll have to bring that agreement back to the council as well, or to the city to decide if y'all want to proceed with lighting.
So, do they just do cost estimates and load usage and just reports like that? Do they provide any drawings, like, oh, we think there should be 8 lights and they're gonna go here?
In my experience, yes. They do a full lighting analysis. And then they also have several options for the lights that you can choose from. Some are more decorative, some are more utilitarian with different cost points. But they do actually design it.
Okay.
Any other questions from the council?
You two gentlemen pretty much nailed the two that I had, so.
Do we have a motion to approve or deny?
I'll make a motion to approve the task order for the utility and roadway design for police, fire, and civic center with Anchor CDI.
I'll second.
Motion and a second?
Ms. Logan?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Fasagi?
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton?
Yes.
Mayor Wolf?
Yes.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Second item on the agenda, the Spillers agreement. We talked a few times before the other meeting. I guess you could update us on that, city administrator.
Certainly. Mr. Spillers, who is the person in charge of the JDS Canal property, this is for a piece of property they own at 2600 Highway 98. We reached out to Mr. Spillers to see if we could lease that piece of property for overflow parking for events at
Parker Park as well as tourist parking during our seasonal onslaught of the public being in the area here. He agreed to the terms of the new agreement that the council had given me direction and the city attorney direction to adjust, and that being the lease is for an annual payment of $4,700 that has been added to the 2027 fiscal year budget. The city then will add the property to our current liability insurance policy. The term of the lease is for 1 year beginning October 1, 2026. And both parties agreed that the 1 year time frame is sufficient amount of time to assess the agreement and decide if a new lease thereafter is in the best interest of both parties. During the seasonal slowdown between October 1 and of course our next tourist season, that'll be time enough for Public Works to go into the property, beef up the roadways into the area with shells that we've already got, as you know, the shell mountain. Also make parking available, and then keep track of our costs and everything so we can make sure how much this is costing us. So that's the long and short of it, Your Honor.
Good deal. Thank you, sir. We had an open public. Any comment about parking? Spillers, a lease agreement for 1 year? No comment from the public. Didn't close the public. Come to the table. The only thing I had on it was, and I think we all talked about this as we were looking at the lease and making this decision. I think that we have to come up with sometime thereafter we make approve or disapprove this. We have to come up with some type of system to weigh or measure that this is a benefit. I mean, I've seen a lot of parking spaces be available and then no parking because nobody parks in there, you know, so. I just hope that we can come up with some type of measurement if we approve this, that we could say, yes, it worked this year, we've forced traffic that way, we got them off the right-of-ways and everything else, and it's working. Let's go ahead and think about the second year, third year, whatever, or even a purchase. But we have to have some type of measurement after we approve or disapprove.
Mayor, I agree. I mean, I think it's incumbent on us that the money we have spent and will spend to continue to improve Parker Park, that the city make every effort we can to utilize that facility outside of tourist season for the benefit of both bringing in people in the off-season and local residents. So I think the city, all of us have a responsibility. We're spending money here to lease a property. We're spending money to improve it. So I think we need to take step 3 and make sure that we do things to utilize it.
I was thinking also with the new amphitheater, maybe there would be more need for the parking off-season there. I know not this year, won't be ready this year, but maybe for in future years, that could be for the traffic that would be needed to park there.
And frankly, to follow up, Mayor, just like equipment, I think the city would prefer to own the property rather than long-term lease. So if we can utilize it, we need to obviously try to negotiate and make plans to try to purchase it.
Yeah, the real connection to the whole thing, if it does work, is trying to get some type of bridge or byway or something from that parking lot across the canal. Would be nice. Would be ideal.
Well, true. I mean, longer term, I mean, we know what's the immediate future. Short term, we will have that multi-use path going up the side of 98. So it's not going to be a motorized path. It's going to be a non-motorized path. We'll see how that works out. But yeah, something to facilitate all our citizens to be able to get there and utilize the park either via cart, bicycle, you know, pedestrian traffic, whatever. But yeah.
Well, it seems to me like there's an appetite to have more information over the next year to make a decision for the second year.
Well, and true, and Ms. Hamilton made the statement, I think it's gonna be hard to truly evaluate it in year one. Just given the amount of time it's gonna take to get it functional. We'll have a tourist season, but I don't think we'll be able to, next budget season, even evaluate, is it working yet?
Well, we have an amazing public works that could probably get it done pretty quick.
sir.
I have a question. Is there any change to our liability insurance with the addition of this new property?
That's a very hard question to answer. A lot of times you throw something on extra and it doesn't cost any extra. Sometimes because of the worth of that property, it very well may trigger some sort of increase, but my estimation would be slight anyway.
And Mike, where is the 4,700 in the budget?
It's in, I
Sorry to
have
put you
a
on the
copy
spot.
of budget with me, but it's in general government, probably in, general expenses or something like that. I can't remember exactly what it, but it's in general government.
Remember, it was taken from the overage and moved to an account.
Now, going back to the insurance under item number 6, does that kind of further explain how that's going to be covered on this sheet?
I'm sorry, I didn't.
Okay, under the insurance for that piece of property, it says the leasing will add the premises to its current liability insurance policy and will list the leaseor as an additional insured on said policy. So that totally covers us, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Um,
Motion moved. No.
Sam, I know, Rich just made this comment that y'all be working real hard to fix it, but do you have any concept of a time frame to, get it up and running? I have no idea what all's involved, I just know there's a lot of work in there.
We have to establish a roadway back there first off the sidewalk, make sure it's stable enough to get back up in there. When Mel says, get on it, that's when we're gonna start it. But I gotta make sure there's a stable roadway to get back up into there for traffic. I gotta put up a little guardrail, so you got the canal, we get the lake back there, you gotta have some sort of guardrail there as you come in. So safety's gotta be the first thing.
Are we planning to, would we put any type of barrier along the edge to keep people from rolling off into the canal?
That's the guardrail he just talked about.
That's the one, all right,
As you come in, yes.
all right.
You know, at this point, it's hard to put a date, a time frame on it until you get in there and really see what you
Okay.
need to do.
What we're doing.
Okay, thank you.
All right, let's see if we're moving on it or not, so we have a motion to move forward. All right.
I'll make a motion to approve this Beeler agreement.
I'll second it.
Have a motion and a second. Roll, please.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Ms. Logan?
Yes,
Ms. Hamilton?
Yes.
Mr. Fasagi?
Yes.
Mayor Wolf?
Yes. Thank you. Ordinance 889, affordable mini storage unit. Mr. Mel?
Yes, sir. At the first reading at the last meeting, the council gave input on some adjustments they wanted to make to this ordinance. The city attorney did a good job of making those adjustments for us. And one of those things that, or a few of those things that happened, is we adjusted the maximum allowable measurements of the shipping container. We adjusted the additional time allowed to 30 days and limit 180 days in total, not just in a calendar year. In other words, we didn't want someone to come in and say, you could do 180 days in year one and 180 days in year two. So this clarifies that. We adjusted the time allowed for the permitting from 15 to 30 days, and we clarified the penalty provision. That should cover it, Your Honor.
Thank you. That's, we're gonna ask for, a motion to read ordinance 889.
I'll make a motion that we read ordinance 889 by title only.
I'll second it.
Motion and second, take a roll, please.
Ms. Logan,
Yes.
Mr. Cox,
Yes.
Mr. Fasagi,
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton.
Yes,
Mayor Wolf.
Yes.
Ordinance 889. An ordinance of the City of Mexico Beach, Florida, establishing requirements for the use of portable mini storage units and providing penalties for violations, amending Title 15 of City's Code of Ordinances, providing for repealer, codification, severability, and effective date.
All right, any public comment on storage, mini storage? No comment from the public, we're going to close the public. Come to the table. We're gonna start it here, I guess, city administrator already mentioned that, we had some changes, so if you look at, page 2, section 2, that's where the change was made, the 8-foot width, 20-foot length, 9.6 feet high. That change was made. Then again on page 2, section 7, a change was made for the 30 days extension. Any question on any of those guys, or any additional on the ordinance?
The next one, section 8, no mechanical, plumbing, electrical installations or connections shall be made to the portable mini storage unit. I think what we're wanting to prevent is like somebody turning that into a living unit.
Housing?
Yeah. But if there's a situation where a guy's using it as his daily work shift, it's okay for him to string power in, for him to run his table saw, and then at the end of the day, he's got to unplug it and shut the door and all that kind of stuff.
I think they're talking more, yeah, you use an extension cord and you're doing
Yeah.
something, but if you're actually drawing electricity to the side of it or water to the side of it, that's where the issue is. I think.
Well, I think that may be problematic, and I'm just saying, Ms. Logan needs a conditioned unit because she's putting furniture in there, it's 100 degrees outside while there's remodeling going on, and she rents one from the storage hub that has an air conditioner on it. She's got to be able to plug that up and run the air conditioner. I think what we're really trying to avoid, and I know specifically one case, but is they run water, and it just stays connected.
Yeah.
You know, they're really supposed to be in and out. They're not supposed to sit there for months and years on end, whether they be the rented storage unit or shipping containers, you know, so.
Well, I didn't know that Pods offered that as a feature
They do.
for air conditioning units. So I guess the question is, do we want to allow that? Do we want to allow a climate-controlled temporary storage unit? And if the answer is yes, then I think we need to have some language in here that would what? It would allow power, but it wouldn't allow.
I think you have the language in there. I think the language, it's already there. I believe what it's saying on that electrical part is that, or water, is those connections are not permanent connections. We have a timeline that we've already put on the mini storage. So,
And, you know,
kind of gray.
I would say to the council, the rented portable mini storage units, whether powered or unpowered, have not been the issue within our city.
That's right.
It's the ones that they bought from a shipping company and they stuck them on the back of their property and they've been here for 5, 6, 7
Right.
years.
Well, so Mayor, I'm happy with the language if we admit that there's a tiny little bit of a gray area for like a climate-controlled storage unit. I think the code enforcement officer can sort that out.
I would think so.
The city attorney, do you think wording's okay for
The only thing you might consider, Mayor, on 8 would be when you say installation or connections, you might add the word installations or installed connections.
You might add that. Okay.
Well, you vote on it, I'll add it.
All right. Any other areas on that?
I was thinking too, I don't know if any of the food trucks have what's equivalent to the portable mini storage unit, and if they did, do they need that to function on a day-to-day basis? And would that be okay to allow them to do that and not have to follow, removing it after 180 days or whatever?
Yeah,
I'm just trying to think
all
if-
of them have, all food trucks have electric.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's not,
But
that's
I
an
think,
exception to
so
this.
you make a good point. I don't know that there's anybody currently using a storage unit for storage, but I think one of them used to, they don't anymore.
Okay.
So do we want to allow that? I think we do.
I think there's, and it's an interesting point she brings up, because specifically in here, there's language about commercial, storage units.
Right.
And I know there's at least one business that's had a rented, I assume it's a rented storage container, and it's not a food business, and it's had it for 2-3 years. And so I'm assuming that wouldn't be allowed on a commercial property, or if it were, it would be limited by 180 days.
Maybe we could, city administrator might be able to put a little, and I think we've sent a letter out to that.
Yeah.
Does the letter ask them to remove it, or notification that they have
Timing.
180 days to remove it?
Timing.
Okay.
Okay.
And that's went out, I think, last couple of weeks. On the mini storage side of it, we okay, or? We have a motion to approve or deny.
I'll make a motion that we approve ordinance 889 as written with the addition of the word installed.
Page 2.
Page 2, paragraph 8.
I'll second it.
Have a motion and a second. Roll please, Dan.
Ms. Logan?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton?
Yes.
Mr. Vasaki?
Yes.
Mayor Wolf?
Yes. Next one on there is ordinance 890, and chapter 11, the code of the ordinance. Mr. Mel?
Thank you, Your Honor. As we go through our rewrite of the LDC, there are a number of chapters that needs to go in our regular code and out of the LDC. So these next two ordinances are simply accomplishing that task. In other words, what you see is the language that we currently have, just in a different part of our code. So it's just shifting it from the LDC to the regular code. In this particular ordinance, 890, this has to deal with noise control, air pollution, burn control, fire protection, and wind speed design. That's all I have, Your Honor.
We got over to the public, any, not yet. Let's go ahead and see if we get a motion to read ordinance 890 first.
I'll make a motion to read ordinance 890 by title only.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Roll please.
Ms. Logan?
Yes.
Mr. Vasaki?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton?
Yes.
Mayor Wolf?
Yes.
Ordinance 890. An ordinance of the City of Mexico Beach, Florida, adding Chapter 100 to the city's code of ordinances relating to noise control, air pollution, burn control, fire protection, wind speed design, and penalties, providing for severability, correction of scrivener's errors, codification, a repealer, and an effective date.
Getting over to the public, any public discussion on ordinance 890? Any closed public? Any discussion at the table? The only thing I had was, how do we measure sound?
We did ask our sheriff's department if they have the proper equipment to measure sound, and they do have it. I don't know what the contraption is called, but
Okay.
Just the sound meter.
Okay.
It was like, it's comparable to a radar gun or something.
It's noise, it's DVH, goes by the vibrations in it, but it's just a generic, basic sound meter.
Okay. Let's see if we have the tools. Any other question at the table? Okay, we'll close that discussion, move on to the next thing on the agenda. Next one on the agenda is 891, and chapter code ordinance first reading. Mr. Merrill?
And in a similar fashion, this also is in language taken from the LDC to our regular code. And ordinance 891 has to do with code enforcement and nuisances. That's all I have.
Any comment from the audience or public on 891? No comments from the public. Getting close to public from the table. Wow, what a lot of reading, huh? Was it like 28 pages, something like that? It's crazy.
So,
I had one that I bring up right away on page 27. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's get a motion to read 891.
I'll make a motion to read ordinance 891 by title only.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second.
Ms. Logan?
Yes.
Mr. Vasagi?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton?
Yes.
Mayor Wolf?
Yes.
Ordinance 899. An ordinance of the city of Mexico Beach, Florida, adding chapter 101 to the city's code of ordinances relating to code enforcement, providing for severability, correction of scrivener's errors, codification, a repealer, and an effective date.
Mayor, that was the earlier version when we were doing chapter 101. The version that's in my packet, Tammy, is the correct one, where we were moving it into chapter 94. And you need to read that one. That's 94, 36. You want mine?
Yeah.
Originally, we were going to create a new chapter, but this, because there was definitions of nuisance in chapter 94, we just ended up striking all of 94 and creating, moving all of that information about the special magistrate and the nuisances into chapter 94. Right, which is what I,
I just need to reread this.
Okay.
yes,
We're
reread.
gonna reread that.
Yes.
It's just that one sentence.
We need to do a motion to reread this.
No, you have a motion that's already been passed to read it.
Okay.
We're just gonna correct the reading to
Okay.
what you have there in the packet.
Okay. Ordinance number 891, an ordinance of the city of Mexico Beach, Florida, amending chapter 94 of the city's code of ordinances relating to nuisances and code enforcement, providing for severability, correction of scrivener's errors, codification, a repealer, and an effective date.
Thank you.
Well, this is mine
So, Mr. City Attorney, if I understand you correctly, the mistake that was made was mentioning chapter 101?
too. Correct. Originally, when I was just gonna drop it into the code of ordinances as a standalone, it was going to be in 101. Then I had a conversation with Mel over the fact that you already had nuisances in chapter 94 and some provisions relating to nuisances, which really were code provisions. So at that point, Mel and I agreed to, instead of creating a new chapter, just move it into 94.
Okay.
So that's the genesis of how we got here.
So that sort of just explains why we've got two of these, right?
The original one was 101, that's correct, and then after my conversation with Mel, it became 94.
No, I guess I misspoke. So a minute ago, we did a first reading of things to go into a new 100 ordinance.
Correct.
So then now we have another one that was supposed to be 101, but it's just extra things that you're saying, wait, we don't,
We're just revising chapter.
we're just
94.
revising a 94. I guess my,
The ordinance was to read 101 code.
Correct.
okay.
The ordinance was originally, like I say, to be its own standalone, just drop it in. And then when I started looking at it, I'm like, well, there's already a 94, and so we don't want any inconsistencies between 94 and 101,
Gotcha.
so we just need to move it into 94.
Okay. With that said, we reread that.
Correct.
We're on track.
Yes, sir.
Getting open to the public, any public discussion? Close public discussion. And move to the table. I had on 27, page 27. On the right of entry. A and B kind of conflict each other. One says that we can do this based on having a warrant,
An inspection warrant, yes, sir.
inspection warrant. And then B just says we just get it move forward.
B is for the implementation when there's an unfit or unsafe structure, which is a serious threat to the public health, safety, and welfare. A would just be your generic, the grass is too tall in a fenced-in backyard. You can't inspect that without an inspection warrant.
Okay, so now, you're telling us on A that we have to get a warrant before we want a
That's
property?
been the requirement.
Okay,
all
well,
along.
I know what you're saying, but then you're saying if there's something illegal and or something other than the grass is too high,
Yeah, if
the
it's,
state law allows us to go on the property.
well, if it's a public health, safety, or welfare relating to an unfit or unsafe structure, then by your police powers, you would have the ability to go in and confirm that, so that you're not opening up the public to a potential safety hazard.
Okay.
So, sorry.
Let me just finish this part, just so we focus on the one thing and get that settled, okay? Our code enforcement officer currently cannot go on our property for grass being too high. There's no safety item there or anything.
Correct.
She can't go on the property.
She is not supposed to inspect by going on the property just for a generic inspection without getting an inspection warrant. That's correct.
But just a point of clarification, and I think I know where you're going, Mayor. If she drives by my yard and my front yard is 2 feet tall, she can see
She can
that,
observe it from
the right of way,
the right of way, or if she obtains
photograph cameras.
authorization from the person that she's inspecting the property on, then she can certainly go on that. But if,
To Mr. Sloan, just so I can finish, let's say that Mr. Fasadi complained about my backyard, and it's fenced, so she couldn't see that, but he's in a 2-story house and he could see it, so he can provide photographic
that's correct.
evidence.
Or he can provide her access and she can go and obtain that.
But for her to physically go onto the property, she needs the inspection warrant,
Correct.
unless she can verify, or she needs to verify that there's a quote unsafe structure or any of those
Creating a
things.
health, safety, and welfare.
Okay,
So the words you just used, creating a health, safety, and welfare hazard, I don't see that in this, on this page, I see public nuisance. Is what I see, public nuisance.
Down
So-
here in B, Mr. Fasagi, where it says involving an unfit or unsafe structure posing a serious threat to the public health, safety, or welfare, or irreparable in nature.
Okay, thank you, because the mayor asked about right of entry, which is the section previous to that.
Correct.
Right. My question was, does one conflict the other? And the thing is, basically, one's a safety item, the other is a nuisance. You know, if the grass is too high, we can't go on there and mow it.
Unless you get authorization from the property owner. And many property owners may give you that. Or you can see it from the right of way. I mean, you don't have to go on the person's property to.
Then let's go ahead and, my whole thing with properties that are a nuisance or don't look good, or the grass is 12 inches, this is 11 and a half inches right there. I went down 98 and there's probably 50 lots that are empty.
Better twice.
Probably 70% of them are over 12 inches. We have to get a warrant.
No, I'm saying, Mayor, if you can observe it from publicly dedicated land, rights of way, our property, whatever, or from getting an authorization from a neighbor or from that person, then the code officer can go on that property and do the inspection. However, if it's something in a gated backyard that is grass too tall because Mr. Fasagi is tall enough to peer over the fence, then they would need to get an inspection warrant for that. Yes, sir. And I will tell you, by the way, there is a conflict in 94 between the height of the grass. The LDC currently has, in their definition of nuisance, the 12 inches. The Code of Ordinances originally had 18 inches. So that may be something you all want to change, but if you look in the strike-through on 9401 definition of nuisance that's being deleted, any grass, underbrush, or weeds which exceeds 18 inches in height, whereas in the LDC, in the definition of nuisance there.
This ordinance says 12.
Yes, sir. I went with the LDC 12 inches and deleted the 18 inches.
Yeah,
I think we're good with that.
Okay.
yeah.
I just wanted you to know what I mean.
All right, so just to nail it down, just to mowing grass, just to get properties to do what they need to do. There's basically three things that have to happen. You have to have some type of right of entry, right? And that could be observed right from the right of way. You can say it's too high,
Correct.
right? The next thing, we have to have a billing process. Is that covered in here? There's a lot of fines and things if we were to mow it ourselves.
There is a process in here for abatement, yes, sir.
Okay.
And your current abatement in 94 is probably not what I would want to see from a court standpoint anyway. So the abatement process in the current ordinance is not something you'd want to use. The new ordinance is the process you want to use.
And the penalties and liens are all in there?
Yes, sir.
I just feel like whether it's grass or anything else, you got to put some teeth in it. And I see the lack of teeth in a lot of situations when we get into them to try to get things done.
Well, this tracks more closely Chapter 162 of the Florida statutes. That statute does authorize the city to employ its own version of 162, and in this case, it would be a special magistrate. The original terminology in the LDC was special master, but 162 uses the term special magistrate, so I changed it to that. And the process that's in 162 is more closely what you have in the proposed ordinance than what you had in Chapter 94, certainly. and what you had in the LDC. So essentially, I've mirrored many of the procedural type things that you have in chapter 162. For instance, the city clerk is the keeper of the case. In other words, just like a circuit clerk here in the court system, she's the one that keeps the file. She's the one that assigns the case number. She's the one that sends out the notices. Instead of the special magistrate sending out his own notices, the clerk is the one now empowered to do that.
As we're talking about this, and Mayor, I agree 100% that a rule, a statute, an ordinance, anything without teeth is not worth the paper it's written on. I also don't want bad actors, people that don't care about their property, to burden our public works department. I mean, our people already have jobs to do. And if a property owner, frankly, is not maintaining their property, yes, do we have the equipment to go mow a vacant lot and bring it into compliance? Sure we do. But as part of that, I think we have to have a fine structure that's penal enough to make me or anyone as a property owner say, if I don't mow my vacant lot 4 times a year, I'm gonna get a $500 fine or a $250 fine or whatever that fine might be. You know, having lived here long enough and knowing what contractors get for, quote, brush cutting, or, you know, when the stuff gets 4 and 5 feet tall, you can't cut it with a 0-turn mower. So I know what those people get for doing a 0.2 acre property. So I think we either have to have a list of, we find the people and then we send Ms. Logan or whoever the violator is a letter saying, here's your list of contractors. You have X number of days to get this done, and not make it a burden to the city staff. Because the city staff didn't create it. The city staff doesn't need to clean it up. What the city staff needs to do is collect a fine because said property owner violated the code. You know, and I think just with my knowledge of how many, quote, tractor people we have around this region, we could easily find 5 or 6 to put on the list that have the proper insurance. And then it's just incumbent, if you're gonna own a piece of property in Mexico Beach, you're gonna take care of it, period.
Well, Mr. Cox, one of the things that is in this ordinance, you have 3 basic methods of enforcement. You have code enforcement, and that code enforcement process is split, typically goes through the special magistrate. There's also a provision in chapter 162 that allows you to use the county court as a process. Still the code enforcement officer, county court, and then there's a criminal part to the violation. So you have 3 different methods, so to speak, to enforce the ordinance. It also talks about, in the first order, the magistrate, if that's the process we're using, magistrate, it outlines what the magistrate's order is going to do and say. And it includes the abatement language that says, if you don't fix this within this period of time, then the city can abate the nuisance. Okay? And that's the order that then triggers the city's ability to go in and fix it if it wants to do that. And it's not required to do that, but it could do that. In the case of grass, may or may not, that's a city administrator decision whether or not he goes and cuts the guy's grass. But at the end of the day, it's a city decision at the end of the cure period to be able to go and abate the problem and then charge back the money to the individual property owner, which is something that's done. The other thing that I provided for in here, I don't think I'm aware that you've ever done it, and that is the non-ad valorem assessment. You have to reach an agreement with the property appraiser and the tax collector, but there is a method by which the abatement cost not fines, but abatement costs, can be put on the tax bill as a non-ad valorem assessment. And so that is it's, the opportunity is provided here. The mechanism hasn't been put in place to do that yet, but it is provided for it here, so.
So how many communities in your experience use the non-ad valorem abatement?
I believe Springfield and Callaway certainly do. If you look in the paper when you're seeing the ad valorem ad being placed in the newspaper, for those of you who read the newspaper, there's also a non-ad valorem advertisement where they're talking about non-ad valorem assessments. So, from my understanding, Callaway and Springfield use it. Parker has the ability to use it. It has the agreement with the taxing authorities. Has not chosen to do that yet. But I will tell you that the foreclosure mechanism, which is in here, after 3 months for a non-homestead property, any fines or abatement costs can be or a lien on the property once a certified copy is recorded, and that lien can be foreclosed after 3 months on non-homestead property. And I will tell you, that usually gets the attention of the people that you want to do what you want them to do.
Well, now that might be the answer to what the city's problem has been over the years, and I've seen it a number of times. The city has sent letters and fines, and the out-of-town property owners simply ignore it. And the city was so stuck with no recourse after that. And it literally has gone on before for several years on certain properties. If this now has that 3-month foreclosure, that might kickstart the process, because we've not had that before.
Well, Chapter 162 has had it for a long time.
We just
The fact that you all have not used it, implemented it, pursued it, that was, I can't speak to that. But all I can tell you is that there are proceedings now in place in this proposed ordinance that allows you to do that. Once a certified copy of the order, the first order of the magistrate is recorded, it becomes a lien on all of their property in the county. And
In the county?
In the county, because that's where it's being recorded. And it becomes a lien specifically on the property that you're talking about foreclosure.
So it doesn't come from the city, it comes from the magistrate.
That's correct.
But,
It doesn't come from the city.
but.
Well, the magistrate acts on behalf of the city.
Yeah, but we're still turning the first step, second, we're doing first step, second step, third step, then we turn it over to somebody else.
I don't know what your steps are, Mayor. The
Well-
method that 162 prescribes and that I have in here is code enforcement officer goes out, either gives them a courtesy warning with time to fix it, or gives them a notice of violation with a time to fix it. If they don't fix it, then the code enforcement officer then tells the clerk, I need a case number, we're going to establish a case. At that point, then a code special magistrate is brought in to hear the case. If the magistrate determines that what the code officer, the notice of violation says is in fact correct, then the code officer will issue an order. A certified copy of that order becomes a lien on the property.
But that's.
I read that, I'm not sure I read that in here, or was it with the fines, or?
Well, there's
Penalties?
there's a lien provision in 94.32. In paragraph B, a recorded order imposing a civil penalty shall be enforceable upon a petition of circuit court in the same manner as a court judgment by the sheriffs of the state, including execution and levy against the personal property of the violator. and then it goes on. After 3 months of the recording of any such lien which remains unpaid, the city may foreclose or otherwise execute on the lien as allowed by law.
And by foreclose, that gives the city the power to have the property auctioned.
Correct.
And
So- Go ahead, Eric.
I was just gonna say, to the mayor's question, the previous page 23 has the fines. Shall not exceed 250 for the first and shall not exceed 500 for everything
Correct.
else.
That's correct. Unless you have prescribed a different fine. For instance, you all were very clear that, that you wanted the fine on the portable storage areas to be a different, amount. And so somewhere in here, I've got an exception for that. Imposed pursuant to this section shall not exceed 250 for the first, 500, and then for the continuing violation would be 250 per day, not exceed 500. But there is an exception in here, and I'll have to find it, Mr. Fasani. It's buried in here.
One of the things I think you're hearing from the table here, and Taylor, tell me if I'm wrong, these procedures have been in place for a while.
You were authorized by law to do them.
Correct.
You didn't have them clearly spelled out in your existing LDC.
But this doesn't.
This takes 162 and implements it.
So once, and this is just the first reading, correct?
Yes.
That's
Yes.
correct.
So at the second reading, we approve it. And at that point, and I'm just using this for an example, for myself mainly, and maybe for the viewing public. If Mr. Snyder is the code enforcement officer, and he drives by my property, and he's a nice guy, and he gives me a courtesy warning, and he drives by 3 weeks later, and I've done nothing. Well, now he issues me a citation, and at that point, it becomes a case.
No. At that point, there's no requirement for a courtesy notice.
But I'm
But
just,
he gives you a notice of violation. In it, it has a time frame to correct.
okay, and that time
The
expired.
time expires. At that point, the code officer goes to the clerk and says, I need a case opened on this, and we need to find a date for a hearing in front of the special magistrate. That's correct.
I'm all on board,
Yeah.
110. It simplifies everything.
Yeah, I'd like to ask the council, I'd like to meet with the magistrate, code enforcement, city administrator, city clerk, and yourself, and go through this procedure.
Yes, sir.
And then
Absolutely.
bring that back to this council.
Sure.
Okay. Whatever you want to do.
Can we do that?
This is only the first reading, right?
Okay.
But a point of clarification, just a little bit of history here. This language is welcome, there's no question about it. But in 2017 or 2018, there was a piece of property on 8th Street that was in deplorable shape. We went through the fine portion, nothing ever happened, took them to the special magistrate. The person claimed they were a sovereign citizen, so they weren't part of our laws. Yeah, that was a fun exchange. But nonetheless, the magistrate gave us, the Public Works Department, permission to go on the property and clean it up. So the entire Public Works Department spent one full day hauling away junk, mowing the grass, trimming the grass, and making it look nice. We did file a lien, we did get paid eventually. So don't think that nothing has ever happened, because it has.
But Mel, to the point, I think that this new process, and I like what the mayor has suggested about getting all parties in the room so that everyone's clear. I'm just one person at this table, but if you lined every voting citizen up, pretty much, they would say, we're tired of the people that just neglect things and they don't do what they're supposed to do. And most of the ones that neglect it are not residents, they're
Non-homestead.
non-homesteaders. So anything we can do to expedite compliance, I think is a good thing. And I welcome the chance to do it.
I'm super happy to hear that we're about to close a really big barn door.
Right. It's something that's been on, I think, the council's mind for years. And it just, I agree, we've made steps, and we're trying to do the best we can, but we need the people that are the violators to understand it like we understand it. That it's step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. And when they understand it, they don't wanna get to step 4.
Well, and I think the point I was trying to make about, and I like Mel's example of 2017 and 18, the whole public work. We don't need ever for that to happen again. And that's why violators need to assume the responsibility. And I love this. You get your notice of violation, you go see the special magistrate, and you get it resolved. And it should not include Sam and his people. It just should not. Because other taxpayers are paying for them to do other work, not go out and do work to collect payment in lieu of a fine or part of a fine.
Well, if we get to the point where we mow, we may have a list of 5 or 6 guys that do that, and we go out and we hire them to do it, and we charge it, or that has to be.
So that was my question, is do we now, does the city now have the option to go to a private company, I'll pick one, Cost Cutters, and say, here, we're gonna pay you to mow these 6 lots because they haven't been mowed in X, Y, Z, 1, 2, 3. And then we turn around and we put a lien on the property owners for the bill that we give to the private company.
Yes, sir.
Or we can have Sam do it. I mean, Mel
Yes,
has
sir.
the option to do both.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so.
The other thing I will tell you too, Mayor, in here that may get more attention is once the initial civil penalty is imposed and the magistrate says you've got this period of time to fix it, and they don't fix it, then it's brought back before the magistrate for potential continuing fines, which are in this ordinance for a first violation not to exceed $250 a day. So if you've ever been to a code hearing, say in Panama City, there may be people at that hearing that have $120,000 in code fines that have racked up for 2 or 3 years at $250 a day. Now, I'm not advocating that, and I think there probably is a limitation, but, and there certainly is a limitation in the statute of 162 on how much a bigger city can impose, but they left out the smaller cities for some reason. So there's no statutory limitation. But I think from a practice standpoint, if you get $5,000, $7,500 worth of fines on somebody, then that's going to really get their attention more than $250.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and the notice of a lien and the ability then to foreclose on that lien.
That's gonna get them.
That's what we'll get.
That's, yeah.
Okay, the city administrator will work with the attorney and put together the meeting that we could have, and then we'll bring that back to the table,
Okay.
and we'll do a first reading again, I guess.
Tim, can,
Well, second reading.
You can do that, you can do another first reading if you want to, Mayor, but you've already had that. You would have the second reading.
Doesn't sound like anything really probably needs to change here.
I
From what I've
It's
heard.
up to you.
We're probably gonna adopt it, but we just want to confirm that everybody's on board with it, and that's the way it works.
Yes, sir. Whatever you want to do.
Well, yeah, I think the second, at that point, we can have the second reading and then we'll either approve it or deny it, so.
also too, on the special magistrate and, okay, so do we as a city council get to choose that person and the
You-
alternate
you-
special magistrate? So
You
would that
pick
be,
the special magistrate.
okay,
Under the current provisions, your special magistrate is not supposed to be compensated. I did provide in this one that they could be compensated. I understand perhaps your magistrates in the past have been compensated. The other thing I didn't put in here, but it applies currently, is that your magistrate be required to be an attorney. Some places still have non-attorney magistrates. I left that option in here for you all if you wanted a non-attorney magistrate. It's just up to you all.
The magistrate ought to know the law.
So are you recommending that we would have two, a special magistrate and an alternate?
I would recommend you have an alternate in place. You currently have a special magistrate. They serve at your discretion,
And who
so
would that be? Is that somebody in Bay County?
that is
No, it's-
currently Dana Morris
Okay.
is your special magistrate.
Excuse me.
So
Okay,
if we wanted to change that, does she finish a 2-year term? It sounds like.
It's a man.
Man, okay.
Yeah, no, theoretically, they serve at your pleasure, so they do have a two-year term unless you decide to throw them out.
Okay. And Dana, what was her last name?
Morris, M-O-R-R-I-S.
we've used them recently.
Okay.
You had one case recently that you,
But currently we don't have an alternate, is that correct?
I'm
We don't
sorry?
have, we don't
You
have.
do not have, not that I'm aware of,
Okay.
no.
We do not.
Okay,
You don't have to have one,
yeah.
but if Mr. Morris got
Alternate,
sick or
yeah.
was on vacation and you had to have a code hearing, then that, you could either delay the hearing or have an alternate.
Okay.
All right, so we got a path moving forward. We'll see this again on the agenda. I'll report back to.
And for those of you that just want to read more than you want to read, this is all coming out of 7.10.00 of the current LDC and 7.11.00 of the LDC.
And that clean copy is on the city's website, under the last P and Z meeting, there's a link to it.
Well, it's on the American Legal
Oh,
website.
is it there too?
That's where I copied it from.
Okay,
Okay, one more thing too, on all this reading that we did on page 10, number 19 about fireworks. It's saying that any person who is involved in the use of fireworks, which has been determined illegal by the state of Florida, shall be guilty of a violation under this section except for any approved public display. So, don't we kind of have a little loophole on that for 4th of July here in our city? I mean, people
Well, the public
routinely.
display is the exception. In other
Okay,
words,
but public display, is that what, the big
What
thing
you-
that we
what you
have?
do, yeah.
But the private person, like, let's say Eric wants to go out on the beach on 4th of July and shoot fireworks with his son, is that allowed?
The city in theory, the way it's written now,
Mhm.
the city administrator, if it was gonna be a public display for multiple families or something, the city administrator could give a permission to do that, but typically, that's just for the regular city display.
Okay. So, the way this is written, can somebody not on 4th of July go out independently?
It's state law, the 4th of July, and there's one other time that the
New
public
Year's
are allowed to
Eve or
set off
something? New Year's.
fireworks.
Okay,
But
So
if
it's
it's
4th of July
illegal,
and New Year's Eve,
Probably you do.
okay.
I think that sometimes, outside of that, public is not allowed to set them off today.
the chief, we're talking about illegal fireworks also in this provision. So that's different than your sparklers and all that other stuff.
So the stuff that you're supposed to have a license to shoot off, the big stuff.
The big stuff, the mortars and the
And that's
stuff
what you call
that,
illegal, okay.
That's still illegal on December 31st for the public, right?
as I understand it, yes.
Yeah, we have some people that shoot some pretty big stuff
We do.
off.
yeah. All right,
All right.
anything else? Anybody at the table? We're good. Let's move on from that. Next thing on the agenda is citizens' comments. Any citizens' comments?
Hey, good morning, council. Let's see, my name is Mason Love. You usually get the pleasure of dealing with my beautiful wife Maggie, but she's not here today. So, I'm from 118 Ocean Plantation Circle, arguably one of the best landscape yards, and my grass is cut at least twice a week. But I'm here today regarding the ongoing email thread with the city on our garbage charges for the billing cycle of June 21st through July 20th. It resulted in an additional charge of $157.50 that was not broken down on our bill. When my wife reached out to the city, she was told that it was for excess garbage fees and for our residential weekly pickup where our mixed yard debris can was charged in excess garbage to the tune of 15 additional charges, even though it was 7 cans for the billing cycle. So I'm here today to ask the city to review how excessive trash charges are being classified and billed. I want to start by saying that I appreciate the city provided photographs and dates supporting the additional cans. My concern is not whether the cans were there. My concern is what was actually in those cans, what collection service they belong to, and whether they were properly charged as excessive household garbage. In my case, the additional cans were yard debris. It wasn't household garbage. It contained the grass clippings and other qualifying yard debris that fell within the city's own 4 foot by 4 foot by 8 foot yard debris guideline. So if yard debris is separate, a waste stream in its own collection process, I don't believe residents should automatically be charged with excessive household garbage fees simply because the yard debris was picked up on a regular garbage route. If the city's position is that those cans should have not been placed out on the regular garbage day, my question is, where was I supposed to know that? What is the city's current yard debris pickup schedule? Where is that schedule published? How is it communicated to the residents? And what day are the residents actually supposed to put qualifying yard debris out? If the city has a designated yard debris day and the garbage workers picked up the yard debris on that regular garbage day, then it seems the appropriate solution would be to clearly communicate the correct schedule and have qualifying yard debris collected on that schedule, not classified after the fact as excessive household garbage and charge the residents $10.50 per can. There's also a billing cycle issue. The city provided dates for the photographs, but some of those dates fell outside the billing cycle on which these charges appeared. So I'm asking the city to explain how an excessive trash charge from one collection period is carried over onto a later utility bill to clearly identify the collection cycle to which each charge belongs. Also, I think there needs to be a distinction between documenting that cans were picked up and establishing that we can subject, or that the can was subject to an excessive household trash fee. So that's two different questions. The city takes its collected waste to the Gulf County Transfer Station. So if there's a different disposal or handling cost for the yard debris, I'd like for it to be explained what the cost is. If there's not, I wonder why there's a distinction between the two things at all, and I'd like to understand what the municipal cost is being recovered by charging $10.50 for qualifying yard debris containers as excessive household garbage. So I'm asking council for 4 things. First, clearly publish and communicate the yard debris collection schedule. Second, clearly define what qualifies as yard debris versus excessive household garbage. Third, do not charge qualifying yard debris as excessive household garbage unless the city's ordinance specifically authorizes that classification. And fourth, require every excessive trash charge to identify the collection date, billing cycle, material classification, number of cans, and rate applied. I'm not asking the city to eliminate legitimate fees. I'm asking for clear rules, consistent enforcement, and transparent billing. If residents are expected to follow a separate yard debris schedule, we need to know that. We need to know what that schedule is. I appreciate Mel cutting our excess fees in half. However, we haven't received a breakdown on how they charged us outside of the workers estimating how many bags of yard debris could have filled our can and charging us $10.50 per bag. And there's no itemized breakdown of how excess charges are calculated within the city's current ordinance, and we have yet to receive that from the city. And if city workers pick up qualifying yard debris on a regular garbage day, that should not automatically become $10.50 excessive household garbage charges for the resident, particularly when the separate yard debris schedule has not been clearly communicated. Thank you.
Before you leave, Mr. Love, thank you. You obviously have a lot of questions. I'd have to be a pretty fast rider to get all of that, and I'll do shorthand. So we're interested in answering your questions, okay? Some of the things that you stated were obviously discussed, have been discussed over the last week or so. Again, you know, scheduling and some things like that, communication. We think we've done a good job at maybe answering your questions through emails back and forth with you and your wife, but obviously you haven't got all your answers. So if you could put those questions in an email to us, or if you want to sit down and go over them individually, we can set that up too, either way.
I'm open to any yeah.
Okay. At this point, it's been emailed back and forth, so why don't you email us the questions? let us see if we may want to have the staff meet with you and go over that.
Sounds like a plan.
Because it seems like we're not gonna answer this only for you. We need to answer it for our public.
I agree.
Yeah, there's a few things I heard him say that we all seen and heard before in the email exchange he and Maggie had made with council, but just a couple of things. I think we do need to do a better job at itemization of the bills. I think we can figure that out internally. The city billing staff can hopefully find a way to have more just transparency in any extra charges that come through on anybody's monthly bill. And then the other thing that I guess I wanted to highlight of the many things that they have pointed out is the yard waste schedule. I think we need to publish that better so that, and whether yard waste pickups on the same day as trash or it's a different day, we need to have a way.
But just identify those and answer those one at a time. There is no yard waste pickup.
Right.
So that's what we need to establish.
Yes.
That was discussed this week.
Yeah, and there should be a yard waste pickup. I don't think that
Correct.
there's any disagreement here because the delivery of yard waste to the transfer station has to be different. You can't co-mix the three, so. I think we
So,
can.
And I think you asked that question. You can't bring it to the same dump.
Are they dropped off at the same location at the transfer station?
No. They go to the dump right here, right? Is it?
They go to the transfer
Yeah.
station, but you can't mix the garbage with the yard debris.
Yard.
Okay, it's two different, it's the same place, but different sections.
Can't mix them
You
out.
can't mix the trash with the yard debris.
But we've been also bringing our yard debris to the dump.
You bring it to the transfer station, that's correct.
So, I don't want us to get into a long discussion here, but I think Mr. Love brings some clear problems to the council. Number one, we don't have a clear schedule of yard debris pickup. Number two, and I'm trying to paraphrase as best I can, we're telling our residents that to put it in a pile on the right of way in your yard for pickup. I've driven by his yard. I know I'm not gonna put a pile of debris that sits in my yard for 2 or 3 weeks and kills the grass.
Nope.
So we've got some issues here and how we address them. And third, I've witnessed sanitation workers picking up yard debris on a trash day and putting it in the trash truck. So, yes, we need to address these questions.
Well, our ordinance admittedly doesn't address the issues that Mr. Love's got. I appreciate him bringing this to our attention, but our intent is we have to adjust our sanitation rates with an ordinance here in the very near future. That's the proper time to us get with our public works department, establish what you guys are talking about, and put it in the ordinance form. That way it's understandable and enforceable by everyone.
we quit using, what's his name? Garrison,
Correct.
to pick up the yard debris, which started after the hurricane.
Right.
Before the hurricane, we had a set yard day. It was Wednesday, every Wednesday or every other Wednesday, at least twice a month. On Wednesdays, they had a truck, an old dilapidated truck, and they came and they forked the yard debris into the truck. You had garbage on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and yard debris on Wednesday. So, and that was in effect for years, and it worked. So then we went to Garrison after the storm, and now we don't have a set yard debris pickup anymore? Is that?
Since KK Storm left, that's true, we don't. We've only taken it over in the last couple of months.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
and unfortunately, correct me if I'm wrong, sanitation workers have other duties on this.
Right.
It doesn't mean that we can't make a schedule. I mean, that's what we spoke this week, earlier this week about, is there has to be a day that's set. And Steve makes a good point. I mean, I have a rock yard from Brown, Arizona, so everything's wrong. So, but I understand you don't want to cut your lawn. The big thing is cutting your lawn. So we're telling people to put stuff on their, either on their lawn or on the driveway. The ordinance asks for, that you use a disposable type bag, you know. It's all there, but, they're using, I think you're using some type of drum or bin or
Yes.
trash can or whatever,
Yeah.
put it in. And we're telling that sanitation workers don't lift those up. Well, they don't have lifts that you can lift them with the machine. So we have to address that. That's an issue that came up when we started taking this over a month ago.
Yeah, I mean, just last thing, just if my bill, it'd be cheaper for me to buy 2 big blue bins and just dump the yard clippings, even though they're not supposed to go in there, and just mix it all together. I mean, it'd be cheaper than paying $300 for a trash bill. So that's my last thing. I appreciate y'all's time, but I'll email those to y'all, and maybe we can, you know, get somewhere with this.
We'll talk again, absolutely, appreciate it.
All right, thank y'all.
Thank you.
With that said, obviously, the staff's gonna get together, and I think you're gonna see something, either a schedule or some type of instructions to our citizens that's go out at one time, either on either a mailer or, well, either a mailer or on our website, and post what we're gonna do. And I think we have to return to some type of pickup day, because we can't have people mow their lawn on Monday and set it on the grass and you don't pick it up 3 weeks later. It just doesn't work. It doesn't work like KK's doing. So, and we have to have it on the schedule. Any other citizens' comments? That's it. Okay. Staff comments?
Always, Your Honor.
Yes.
I'll let Mike go first. We met and discovered a couple of dates or times for our next budget meeting.
Good morning. As you know, the state's requiring us to take our existing budget that we've agreed on for this year, reduce it by 10%. So what I've done is I'm going to give you all a homework assignment. I've redone the summary page. Big top in red, it says 10% reduction exercise, so you don't get it confused with the original budget. And you'll see a deficit of $506,000. So your homework assignment on one of these days that we're going to choose is to try and find $506,000 of expense reduction and try to avoid all of it being capital, because the state really wants us to take a look at those personnel and operating costs. The 2 dates that we've come up with was our in between our hearing dates. So the first hearing date is September 11th, and the second hearing date is September 21, I believe it is.
That's correct.
So we were looking at either Thursday the 17th or Friday the 18th to hold this exercise.
Either day, Thursday or Friday, the 17th or 18th works for me, so.
At 9 a.m.
Thursday the 17th.
I have an appointment, but I can change it.
I would prefer the 18th.
Me too. Can you do the 18th?
Friday?
Friday the 18th.
We're gonna do it in the morning.
At 9 o'clock.
Okay.
I'm good. Everybody good?
So Friday the 18th at 9 o'clock.
Come prepared.
And if y'all, if you haven't picked up in your mailbox, you do have updates to the budget where we, I redid all the enterprise funds to reflect, the revenues, and basically we came down to the balance budget for everything, for the general fund and for the, enterprise fund. So those are in your mailbox, but then you also got an email with a soft copy of the final budget as well.
Okay, Friday, 9 a.m.
Find 500,000 to save.
Petty cash.
All right, I got about 4 things. Number 1 is the pier. I did put in the weekly report that the pier has already gone through FEMA's EHP, which is Environmental Historical Preservation, It's now in the LPN, which is a large project notification. This is where things are shifted to the FEMA headquarters for their review and notification process. The team reviews the package for completeness, sends it to the FEMA's Office of the Chief Financial Officer, then notifies the PA grant staff and FEMA headquarters, approves the project in the LPNQ. This generally takes 30 days, so that means we're close to the end here. I found out this morning that when it comes to all of the headquarters review process, that is complete already. So we have 1 or 2 weeks left, and the 1 or 2 weeks left means that's where they do all the notifications. So that's just, shall we say, a formality. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, we're gonna get up here, and we're gonna start soon.
So honestly, Mel, that is fantastic news, which means we should have a formal approval to proceed in 3 or 4 weeks.
Absolutely. In other words, it'll be obligated.
Yeah, so that's the finish line, right? It's when the money is obligated?
That's right. When it's obligated, then we do a little dance in the office. You know, we also have to work on the permitting side, and we're pretty good on that. But one thing we'll have to do is we'll have to hold a meeting between the contractor and some of the folks from DEP and our engineers and that sort of thing before we start. It's got to be 45 days before construction starts. So during that 45-day period, you order materials and that sort of thing. So everything just keeps running.
So just curious, I know you've had communication with our contractor. Have they indicated once it's obligated and they get the notice to proceed, when would they be able to start?
Well, once the notice to proceed is issued, they can start. But you've also got lead time in the material.
Right.
And they gave us, what, a year, they said?
It's a 365-day construction period.
So is all of this discussion we're having right now separate from the new bid price that we have not received yet?
Completely separate.
Okay.
That's a whole nother story for another day.
And then I won't say.
Which we've already discussed is covered in the overage, but it has to be explained.
Right. All right, that's
That's
good news
good
about the
news.
pier.
Yep.
Toucan's parking lot, the parking lot behind Paradise Shores condominium. The owner of Toucan's has already rocked and put timber bumper blocks down. He has filed for a change in zoning to allow that to be called a parking lot. So that will be brought to the P&Z on the 14th of September. It will come to the city council on the 22nd of September, and the final meeting would be October the 13th. Now, this is one of those issues that you hear Mr. Sloan occasionally say, we need permission and a vote from the council to hold the quasi-judicial hearings at a time other than after 5 p.m. In our case, of course, 9 a.m. So we need the council to vote for those hearing dates to have the times at 9 a.m.
And that's, there will be 2 ordinances. One will be changing the land use, and one will be changing the zoning. So,
Because we do things differently here.
right.
Okay.
So if the council could have a motion passed that allows for both public hearings to occur at 9 o'clock in the morning on the dates that Mel has specified, that would satisfy not having to have one after 5 o'clock.
If we would, ours are at 5:01, right?
That's for the
Your-
budget hearing.
You're required, oh, your budget hearings are after 5 o'clock?
Yeah.
I don't know. I've not been involved in your budget.
So what were those dates again, Mel? 9/22
September the 22nd and October the 13th.
and one motion can cover.
One motion could cover.
To have both public hearings at 9 a.m.
Can we make that motion now?
Yes, that's what we're
Okay.
asking.
I make a motion that we have our quasi judicial hearings on September 22nd and October 13th at 9 a.m. for the proposed changes to the Toucan's parking lot.
That needs to include your legislative, also, legislative and quasi-judicial public hearing.
I amend my motion to include legislative and quasi judicial hearings.
If we have all that,
I'll
in a
second
second.
it. I'll second
Motion
it.
and a second.
Ms. Logan,
Yes.
Mr. Fasagi,
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton,
Yes.
Mr. Cox,
Yes.
Mayor Bush.
Yes.
So any discussion and any questions that I have about this, will I have to wait until it comes to the council on the 22nd? Because I have questions.
You just go in Mel's office, sit down, and go over the questions. And if they need to be brought to the P and Z and or the council, it'd be brought, but I'd start it with Mel.
Okay?
And anybody other than you, any citizens can show up at the next P and Z meeting and ask those questions too, right?
Correct.
I had one more thing about Toucans. I know we expressed concerns about their parking lot is going to be all handicap parking lot. And so everybody's going to have to cross the street, cross the highway to get to those parking lots. So, you know, I had requested to if we could look into some type of crossover that would be directly across from their parking lot for Toucans. Is that something we have to go through FDOT and then do possibly for the lighting? We had spoken with, I think, Mr. Scott Nixon. Or
I mean,
Dixon.
other than where the current,
Well, there's
where's
one
the
that's
current?
kind of
It's
far
up a
down.
little
I'm
bit.
thinking people aren't going to use that. But if there was one right in front of the parking lot that's right, you know, next to the Exxon, if they could create a walking space there, I think people are more likely to use it because nobody's going to be able to park in that initial parking lot next to the restaurant except the handicap. So that's going to go real quickly. So then I think you counted 80 parking spots between those two parking lots, including the Paradise Shore. So that's a lot of people, a lot of families, a lot of kids, a lot of people that are going to go to the bar, come out drinking, and they're going to cross that highway. So if we could have some type of, you know, all lit up by Duke Energy's lights and a crossover, a safety crossover right in front of there, rather than people walk. We know from experience people are not going to walk half a block down to cross over. They're just going to cross over directly.
yeah, we could ask you.
A letter was sent to DOT's district secretary to work with the city to look at pedestrian safety, not just at that location, but other locations as well. And so that is on our radar and it's on their radar. They have not reached back, because it takes a lot of time for them to get through all their queues. So at which time they get back with us, we'll meet with them and try to accomplish that. I do agree, because you know, I live at Paradise Shores, so I see that as much as anyone. When they moved that crosswalk to its current location, that was done when Toucan wasn't open. So that botched everything up. So now that Toucan will be opening, that takes a whole different dynamic in that. And so it's appropriate, I think, to move it down, but it has to be the DOT's blessing.
Okay, but you've approached them about it generally, okay. Okay.
Right. Anything else, Mel?
Oh, yes, sir.
Go ahead. So we hear.
I also put in the weekly report something about the MX1 upgrade and relocation. And it mentioned that I had spoken with our lobbyists, and they spoke with the Deputy Secretary of DEP over relevant grants and the SRF loan program. He suggested that we apply for funding through Restore as well as the SRF program. The issue with Restore, however, is that that is something that the city by itself cannot do. Because the Restore money is given to the counties, who then either use it for their projects or delve it out to municipalities that work with them. So as of that meeting we had yesterday with our grant writers, as well as our engineer, and so as a result of that meeting, I made the request to the Bay County chairwoman as well as the county manager to consider allowing Mexico Beach to work with the county and make an application for some of these Restore funds not for the full cost of the whole project, which is like $18+ million. It's for, at this point, just the design and review and permitting and that sort of thing, which is always the first step anyway. That's about 1.4 million. So we've requested that amount from Restore Funds through the county. As of this morning, the county manager told me that he's working on a reply. I do not know what that means. Whether they're going to say, yes, we're willing to work with you on this, or maybe the next year is more appropriate, because this year is, we're going on some hard deadlines here pretty quick. So that all being said, should we get the green light to move forward with the Restore application, I'd like for the council to, at the very least, give me a consensus to make that application if it's available.
If it's available for 2027
Yeah.
or 2028.
27.
Both.
Yeah, I don't know why any of us here would say no. I guess my only question is that 1.4 million estimate for just initial phase one design and permitting, does that include expanding and enlarging MX1? Does it include moving it? Does it to cross the road, or does it include both?
That's all.
It's all of the above,
Okay.
expanding, moving, as well as looking at the main trunk line from MX1 to the AWT, which then would bypass the Tyndall lift station.
We all know that all these, where MX1 is at, right? It's at the end of Canal Street, so they have to come from the south side over to the north side, and then run it all the way to Tyndall.
Right.
But did I hear you say to not go to Tyndall, there would be a new line that would not go to Tyndall?
It would go through Tyndall to the AWT wastewater plant, which is on Tyndall property.
Gotcha.
But right now, all of our waste dumps into their lift station. And then ours gets mixed with theirs, and then goes back out to 98 onto the AWT plant.
So this would take out part of that.
We'll take out going south and back north. And there are some security concerns from Tyndall anyway, about, you know, our effluent might impact theirs, and we don't want that possibility to happen.
Yeah, the Bay County station is on Tyndall.
Yeah, the lift station, yes.
You know, be confused by that. I mean, right now we go into Tyndall's, we're mixing with Tyndall. All we're asking to do is go out of Tyndall directly to the Bay County,
AWT.
so that you're doing it, you're still going back on Tyndall, but on the Bay County side, not Tyndall side.
Our dirty water would not be mixing with their dirty water until it got to the AWT.
Correct.
That's right.
Yeah. And we talked about the separate lines also. When you're doing the repair, it's gonna be, you know, all the new line would go in and you'd be working off the old line.
So the old line continues to run, you just lay a new line in, and then
And
you
then you
switch
switch
it.
over.
That's something.
Sounds a lot smarter to me.
Yeah.
And I'm not a sewer engineer, but
Yeah.
So do we have a council consensus then to go ahead and proceed, should Restore?
absolutely.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. You okay with you guys on the grant side? Okay, very good. One last thing, Your Honor.
Okay.
I know I'm keeping you from
You're doing
other
good.
duties. This is concerning the lot split discussion. I want to just give you an update of where we are. I had a conversation last week with our city attorney about how to proceed after a discussion at our last city council meeting, and then Laura this week. And the first thing was that we were going to look at some internal policy to maybe address some of the concerns that the council members had. Laura's opinion is internal policy is not defendable in court. So she suggested that we actually do an ordinance. And so I just wanted to bring these couple things up to you. The reason we're doing this is because, as you know, the state changed the law, and the statute 177 -071, that's where it says that a plat or replat submitted under this part must be administratively approved, and no further action or approval by the governing body of a county or municipality is required if the plat or replat complies with the requirements of statute 177.091. And 091 is simply where it says the plat has to be a certain size, a certain makeup, a certain ink, you know, certain things on it, so that's just more of an engineering type thing. There's no procedures there. It further says that a local government may not create, establish, or apply any additional local procedure or condition for the administrative approval of a plat or replat under this section, which is inconsistent with this section, or 177.091. So you ask yourself, why did the state make this preemptive strike against municipalities? And the easy answer is to take politics out of it. This thing further says that within 7 business days after the receipt of the plat or replat, the administrative authority shall provide written notice to the applicant acknowledging receipt of the plat or replat submittal and identify any missing documents or information necessary to process the plat or replat submittal for compliance with 177.091. So this automatically has some timelines. It also says that unless the applicant requests an extension of time, the administrative authority shall approve with conditions, or deny the plat or replat submittal within the time frame identified in the written notice. In other words, when I give them that notice before 7 days, there should be a timeline of how much time we need to go through our processes. That's what we have to follow. That all being said, they also mention a registry where it says the governing body and its designated administrative authority shall use upon written request from the applicant the registry established in 163.3169. And what this says, that we have by January 1st of 2027 to establish a registry of at least 4 qualified contractors or 2 qualified contractor firms which the governing body shall use to supplement the local government staff resources in ways determined by the governing body upon written request by the applicant. You may or may not know that this last legislative session, there was some bills before the House and the Senate to take this authority completely out of the city and go directly to these people at the registry. That was defeated. So we at least have, for 1 more year, the capability of doing this on our own. The good news for us is we already have 2 firms. We have Alara, which is the Planning Collaborative, and we also have ACDC, which is AC Disaster for our stormwater stuff. So in that respect, we're in pretty good shape. But when we go through this whole process, we use these 2 contractors to do these reviews on our behalf. So the problem that may be hard is that if I am the designated authority to sign this administratively, which I've got that authority, you've already given me that, and I get pushback from the neighbors that they don't want this, and I get pushback from the council who doesn't want it. And then all fingers point to me. What are you going to do, Mel? Well, this council establishes the rules to go by in the LDC and that sort of thing. As long as what the request meets the LDC, I'm going to approve it. In other words, keep all the politics out of it. That's why this was done in the first place. So that makes it tough on me, but also what we tell people at P&Z as well. That as long as what comes before you is compliant with our LDC, you have to vote in favor of the request. Now, Mexico Beach traditionally maybe has not done that. That's a whole different story. But what I'd like to do is let you know that we are working up some bones of an ordinance to bring before you to allow for notification of the property owners in the surrounding area I know at current, it's like 400 feet, I don't recall off the top of my head. But nonetheless, that is the process we will follow. Questions?
Well, that was a lot for you to explain it all to us. I know that we talked about it probably a year ago when it first came out, and then it was pretty much settled. But here we go, running into a lot split that you're gonna be making that decision. And I think the authority there, the reason why it was put together is because of the length of time it takes to council, to P and Z and everything else, and they sped up the process. I understand it.
Well, okay, since I'm the one who had an issue with it, still do. Mel, would you go back and reread? You have 7 days to give the answer to the applicant on the process that is to be used. Is that not what it says?
That's what it says. Within 7 days after we receive those submittals,
Right.
I have that 7 days to give back to them to let them know that it is complete or not complete, and that we need X number of days for our staff.
Our process to work through it.
Exactly.
It's what
And now that time frame is not determined in this state statute. That's for us to determine.
Right. So what we had decided last year was we would keep our process in place, which was all of the steps that we had, but you would tell the applicant, here is, within 7 days, here is our process. The process did not have to get done in those 7 days.
Correct.
Your answer to them about the process was the only thing that had to be done. So we were supposed to keep our process, which was all of our notification, all of our P and Z and the council and the public's right to comment. That's what I'm objecting to, because if we don't keep that, you cut everybody out.
Well, that's what it did.
Yeah,
That's what
You know,
it did. It cut
these are the
everybody out.
suggestions that we looked at for this ordinance. What we're gonna do is take this, compared to what the ordinance currently says, and if that takes care of it, we're fine. But if not, we'll bring a new ordinance for your review.
As someone who served on P and Z, and obviously I've served now a little while on council, fundamentally, and I've heard people make comments that they didn't care what the LDC said. In my view, just one person sitting here, most of the things that historically have had to come to the city council should never have been on the agenda if it, A, went through the process of being reviewed by planning and zoning. Planning and zoning, at every meeting, we have the administrator, we have a certified planner, and an attorney guiding us as to what we're reading in the LDC if we don't understand it and how it applies to a given situation. And once those people make that judgment that A, there's no legal reason based on our code that we can deny, you have to approve it. It's not an arbitrary decision for me or the mayor or any other individual. The only way you could fundamentally, I think, deny something is if it somehow violated some sort of a moratorium that had been placed due to an emergency situation, a disaster, a major water sewage issue that we got to deny this development right now because we've got a problem. So in my view, to keep kicking the can around and around, I don't deny that planning and zoning serves a great function and should always be in place. And I agree with Ms. Logan, we need to continue that process when it applies. But when it says plat or replat, in my view, you're taking something that was historically this and taking it back, you know, you're splitting it in two and it meets all the criteria legally, and it's reviewed not just by him, but he has resources that review to make sure it's compliant. And I don't really see the point that it ever comes to the city council. I just really do not. Unless it's contested. Let's say that Ms. Logan's the owner and contests the decision of denying it because of something, then maybe it can come to the council. But to eliminate any political pandering of, well, I'm gonna do this because Ms. Hamilton's a friend of mine or her son's a friend of mine, and we're gonna approve this even though it maybe not doesn't meet the letter of the law. I think the state statute's pretty clear. They wanted to eliminate all that garbage. So, I don't know. I like the fact P&Z has a job to do. I think the city council, for the large part, should stay out of what the P&Z does. Look at their recommendations, know what's going on there, but once it's approved at that level, frankly, most of the reviews shouldn't come to this table. That's just my opinion.
Let me try to explain more of what I'm getting at. I'm mostly concerned, I'm completely concerned with lot splits in platted subdivisions that have the lots that are large enough by square footage to split. But the subdivision was platted with large lots. It was sold with those large lots because the people wanted those larger lots. Someone buys one of those empty larger lots and decides to split it, thus destroying the entire integrity of that platted, established subdivision and creating something that nobody bought into. And this has happened in my subdivision. And I am extremely sensitive to this because when people buy the subdivisions, and each one is different, the subdivision that has the larger lots, which holds enough square footage to split, they don't want them split into smaller lots because they wanted the larger lots, and you change the entire integrity and of that subdivision. Why should that be allowed with no input and no say-so, because you're destroying a subdivision that's been platted that way? The city was platted very specifically from Highway 98 to the south side of Florida were the 50-foot wide lots. From the north side of Florida to the south side of Maryland, the lots were 75 feet wide. From the north side of Maryland on back to 15th, the lots, for almost all of them, were 100 feet wide. And the lots from Maryland back to 15th are the ones that are big enough to split. And I find it extremely odd that the houses on the lots on First Street are large enough to split. But nobody ever talks about that, but they always come into the lots from north side of Maryland on back to split them. But they were platted that way, and the people who bought those have to have protection against somebody who wants to come in and buy a large lot, split it, sell one off.
Why would they be able to do that?
They've done it.
Of course, they've done it under law. They've done it because it's the right thing to do. The law says you can do it.
Why should they be able to come in and split something that was designed to be one way, and the people bought that in good faith that it was to be that way, and then somebody gets to come in and split it up? You've lowered the property value, you've added all of these negatives of extra people, extra traffic, extra noise, extra garbage, and you've destroyed a platted subdivision that most everybody in there bought because of that size. That's not right.
You're trying to put feelings in, that's what
No,
Steve was saying.
no.
You're trying to put feelings
That's
into
not
what's,
feelings.
make a decision based on what's law.
We've got ordinance on the books right now that says that the resulting lots have to be consistent with those in the area.
It can't
I-
be 10% smaller.
I take that seriously. In the past, I know what happened in the past, and you are as well. But I take that seriously, and so I wouldn't even think of approving anything unless we keep that standard that's already in the ordinances.
Yeah,
And lot splits are different than replats too.
The
So
statute
replats are
just
like 3
addresses
lots.
plats and replats. And the ordinance just addresses those.
to me, it's not much different than, and I could use a couple of examples, but the areas you mentioned, there's a couple of properties where people have come in there, not too far from Miss Hamilton, and put a monstrosity of a house on a double lot that does not fit what you're talking about, you know, Ms. Logan, about the aesthetic of the neighborhood. It looks like a castle, you
It's
know.
a trailer and it's a castle.
Yeah, so it's,
I'm not,
to the point is, if it meets our code and it's legal, and I think at some point, the city administrator is bound by our code and state law, not personal opinion. So if there's city ordinances that protect people, there's state law that direct things, we have to operate under both. And I said it, I think P&Z serves a great function, but I don't think, and I've used this term before, if Eric owns a 75-foot wide lot where his house is, and he buys the vacant 75-foot wide lot beside his house, just because it comes on the market and he wants a little more space between him and his neighbor, that lot combination does not need to go to P&Z. It does not need to go, the city council doesn't need to know about that. He's able to combine those two lots. There should be no input from me or the mayor or you or anyone on P&Z. It's a non-issue.
I'm on a totally different page than y'all. I'm not talking about that, so, I can see it's not going to do me any good to try to explain it here. I'll try to talk to Mel, get some satisfaction, and if I need to, I'll bring it back. But I'm on a totally different topic than y'all, and it's just not working here. So I'll go talk to Mel, and then we'll see where we go from there.
Well, I think what Mel wanted to bring to us is what the law says and the reason why he's doing what he has the authority to do, what he's gonna be doing.
And I think he's also informing us that his hands are somewhat tied. So if we get mad, they want his decisions, but the decision he made is legally binding. He can't do it. He can't make a decision other than what he has to make the decision, which is legally binding, even if we don't like it.
Correct.
Now that I've opened a hornet's nest, that's all I have, Your Honor.
That's all you have? That's it? All right. City attorney?
Just the ordinances that are coming relative to Toucans, those will be one for a land use change and one for zoning change.
Okay. And we'll get a look at those. Department heads? Anything? No breaks? Everything's good? I read enough about Panama City, that was enough for me. Glad not to be part of it. Council comments?
Can I say something?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
We had, employee mandatory training, last week for Public Works, where they had to come in the cool, which I think they enjoyed that, and they had to watch 3, required training videos on cybersecurity, harassment, and heat stroke prevention. And, I would like to say how proud I am of those guys and gals. They did extremely well on those. I graded them yesterday, and the ones that I thought that were not paying attention and sleeping in class. They did so good. So I'm proud of our public works. They were attentive and they were listening, and we got a great group here. So a great team. So I'm very, very proud of them.
Thank you.
And utilities too. Yeah, whole public works. They did great.
Okay, council?
I just want to thank Mr. Sloan for doing the work on these ordinances that are going to bring into effect what the Florida legislature passed, Florida's statute 162. I looked up when Florida's statute 162 was passed. It was passed a while ago. So thank you for closing this barn door.
All right. No other council comments? Mayor Collins, the only, one of the things that I'm seeing that's really a good thing, I'm having conversations with some of the people around town, is people are starting to look at these weekly reports that are being publicized. And they're getting up to date on everything. I mean, we use them. I mean, I know the council, you guys read them and you see what's going on. And a lot of the stuff sometimes repeats. But it's, if you want to find out when it's going to be changing, make sure we're talking with the city administrator, take our time to find out what's going on, because there are changes, they're just small changes, you know, but you have to kind of leave the same thing on that weekly report to carry it on. So everything has an end to it. We should just know when it's coming, but I encourage people to go to our website, go to Facebook, whatever else, and read those weekly reports. They will keep you up to date. And I think it ought to be a mandatory thing for our next city administrator that we hire. So start making your list. That's all I have. I have a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.